Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to MagnaWave office hours. Trying to get there. We go. Had to get a battery hooked up there. Pat Zemer here with MagnaWave. Glad to be with you on this Tuesday to answer your questions, whatever they may be about PEMF, MagnaWave, machines, training, anything that is that you'd like to talk about. We're here to do that and to answer your questions. I got a couple of holdover questions from last week that we will be getting to talk to some folks on the phone. If you text me today and I have a conversation with you, we'll send you a swag bag of MagnaWave material. So we're looking forward to that. So if you'd like to send me a text at 502-599-9722, I will give you a call back and we can have a conversation about whatever it is that you'd like to talk about. I do want to go into an area today a little bit here at the beginning and talk about, there's been some questions about waveforms, wavelengths, string, machine strengths, that type of thing. And first of all, I want to say that it's not the way we normally operate to go out and talk about or throw any of our competition under the bus. The bottom line is that PEMF is a very good therapy and it works very well. And there's a lot of different devices out there that folks like and folks use, and they're all okay. The biggest difference between devices is the strength. Some of the low voltage, low frequency devices, systems that are out there generate very small amounts of Gauss, 35 Gauss, 50 Gauss perhaps, whereas when you get into our type of devices, you're talking a minimum of 200 Gauss, 500 Gauss, up to 3,000, 5,000, 8,000, 9,000 Gauss, depending on which machine you're using and the differences thereof. And so that's the primary difference. Now, people will say, you see companies out there that claim to have patents on their waveform or patents on this. Ask to see those patents if someone brings that to your attention. In the high power devices like the MagnaWave devices and some other devices on the market, the signals actually start and stop. It fires, it goes up, and then it rapidly depletes itself and it stops, and then it fires again. Low power devices have what they call a sinus wave. The wave never stops, it just keeps going, kind of like an ocean wave, if you will. So it just keeps up and down. That's what they consider to be the pulsing in those devices, but they're not a fired pulse that starts and stops. Now, the NASA scientist, Dr. Bob Dennis, showed that a lot of the good healing elements of the higher powered devices is in the slew rate of the signal, how quick the signal drops off to the bottom just before it stops or once it stops. And that's where he found the best capability of adding to the healing processes of these devices. Now, that can be a wave with a rounded top, that can be a wave with a pointed top, that can be a square wave, certainly can be a sawtooth kind of wave. What he found was it's the slew rate or the die-off of the signal that is where the real benefit comes from in these types of devices. Now, somebody will say, well, they've got this particular kind of wave, and if it's a high power device and it starts and stops, it falls into the slew rate to where the benefit comes from. So somebody says, well, we have this kind of wave that somebody else doesn't have. It's difficult in some cases with these types of machines to control the wave that's generated. Now, with spark gap machines, spark chamber machines, where you have two electrodes that the spark actually jumps between, and we have machines like that in our line, and then we have machines that are digitally controlled. The power, the energy that produces the signal is produced by a computer chip and a particular array of parts that are in the machine that cause it, with the capacitors and the diodes and so forth, that cause it to go. Those machines typically have a little softer top. They're like what I kind of equate to a number 2 pencil that's been used. It's a little duller at the top, still writes fine, still does a good job, but it's not sharp. Some of the spark chamber devices produce what I call a little sharper signal, so it's a little more definite. You feel it you feel it a little more. It's a little sharper going in. So you regulate the power accordingly to have comfort or to find comfort in those devices. And so, you know, again, there's a lot of stuff out there, and people are going to tell you things. They're going to tell you things about their competition that want you to believe that something is true or not as powerful or whatever. Just ask the questions. Do they safety test their devices? Do they work with, have they done any studies with their devices, not studies that are pulled off the internet? So there's a lot of different questions you can ask to find out if somebody is being forthright with you about what they're trying to do. I never got very far in my sales career bashing my competition and going after people from that regard. People can see right through that, that you know, why do you need to do that? I've always said when someone comes down, they talk about PEMF and they're talking about MagnaWave, check out the family you want to be with. And we consider ourselves a family. We consider our customers to be family of the MagnaWave family. We want to tell them what it's going to do. We want to help them get things done. Now, things have changed dramatically. I mean, back when I was doing it myself, pretty much by myself, my wife and I traveling the country, doing everything, being the customer service representative, the sales representative, helping people get repairs, so on and so forth. There was a lot more involved, and sometimes one person trying to do everything is very difficult. Today at MagnaWave, we have a very good customer service department. We answer the questions, we coordinate everything being returned, and the deals have changed at some of the factories. The factories have our factories all work under the guideline of good manufacturing practices by the FDA. So we have to have return authorizations. We need to keep good records on what was done to the machine, when it was done, when it was completed, so on. And so we follow those guidelines with our customer service department. Of course, all of our product specialists are very good at answering very basic questions, or answering questions about the modality and what can be achieved and how it operates. So just make sure you're comfortable. You got somebody that'll talk with you. You got somebody that's there when you need help at 7 o'clock at night or 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever the time may be. We've got people that try to be there and to make those contacts for you and to solve these problems. So I just wanted to kind of cover that. Again, all PMF is good. Some is faster than others. Some devices produce good comfort. Some devices take longer periods of time to use to achieve a result. That's one of the nice things that we like about our device and devices, is that they are high power. You do gain a result much more rapidly. You don't have to treat yourself for an hour or 2 hours, or whatever that scenario may be. 10 or 15 minutes on a given area quite often produces a feeling, a comfort, a reduction in pain that you're looking for. So those are the things to kind of keep in mind. If you have any questions about that, send me a text. I'll call you back and we can discuss it, or put it in the chat box and we'll answer those questions and get along with you. Let's see here if we have any questions. A lot of folks with us this morning. David's with us. Liani is with us. Kim's with us. Jessica, good morning, Jessica. Carly's here. Felicia is here. Susan's with us. Rob's with us this morning. Tracy's with us. Idle Hour's with us. We're just glad you're here, and we appreciate your being here. We have a question here. Is the Gauss different on the Semi 5 compared to the Duo? What are they, please? Also, if treating a horse on Duo with 2 attachments, same settings on high, will they both be on the highest Gauss at the same time, or does the power lessen? Okay, when you're talking about the Semi 5 and the Semi 5 Duo, they're very similar in their power output. When you're running 2 attachments on the Duo, each attachment, there's basically 2 machines in that device, and they're producing the maximum amount of Gauss if you turn it all the way up. Now, what happens though, if you're using the paddle on the Semi 5 Duo and you're putting it on a foot, or you're using it on a shoulder, and then you're using the large wave wings perhaps on the hips of the horse, you're going to have a very different Gauss delivery. The larger the circle, the less the Gauss delivery. If your circle or your paddle or whatever you're using is smaller, you have a more direct approach, and Gauss delivery would be higher. That's why we say on some FEI devices, they meet the 1,000 Gauss requirement on FEI if you use the large loop, the butterfly, or the Wavelengths. If you get to the paddle, you're going over 1,000 Gauss on delivery. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it. When you hold the paddle and you put your hands on either side of the paddle, it doesn't seem like it's putting out as much as perhaps the butterfly. It's the configuration. It is providing more energy, but quite often you don't feel it as much as you would feel one of the other attachments. So to answer your question, you're not lessening the power. You are changing the power by virtue of the attachments that you have. But if you have both of them on 5 and you have 2 butterflies, you're going to get the same delivery of Gauss. But if you have a large loop and a butterfly, you're going to get a difference. You'll get more Gauss out of the butterfly than you will out of the large loop. Or if you have the large Wavelengths, the Gauss will be significantly lower, but you're stimulating a larger area of tissue on the body, and you may see more movement with the large Wavelengths, even though the Gauss is considerably lower. It's the penetration that we're looking for. Everything produces at a minimum 200 to 500 Gauss if that's where it's at, what you're looking for. But then again, when you get into the paddle and the butterflies, the Gauss level or the Gauss delivery does increase. Hope that helps. If you have any further questions, just post it back in there. Since PEMF metabolizes, do we need to be careful if a client is on pain medications? What you want to make sure, let's say someone's going to take a pain medication and you're going to treat them. And that pain medication is being metabolized while you're treating. You can increase the viability of what they're taking. So that's why we often talk about when we're doing a horse. If they're going to administer a medication to the horse, give the medication, let it get assimilated into the body, and then go do your treatment. At that point, you're not changing anything. You're not altering any metabolization. Now, in some cases, you may have a veterinarian that you're dealing with, and they understand that we can improve the metabolization, and so they give a medication, and let's say they give a medication of a particular strength. Well, you're only absorbing a percentage of that medication because it's got to go through the gut, digestion, and all of that. And they know that. They know that they gave you this much, so you make sure you get this much, is how that quite often equates. Now, there may be a veterinarian that says, hey, I want to give this medication. I want you to treat because I want to improve the metabolization of what I'm giving for this purpose or that purpose. That's why it's always good to discuss these types of conversations with your veterinarian. But so the best thing that I recommend doing is if you're going to take a medication, take the medication, give it some time to be digested, metabolized into the system, and then come back and do the treatments that you're looking for. We used to do that with temperature. When a horse would have a temperature and we're going to treat it and they're worried about an infection, we always would recommend, the veterinarians would recommend, give the medication, give the antibiotics, let them be in the system for a period of time so they do their thing, and then come back and do the treatment to help pain relief, to help all of that type of stuff. So that's one way of looking at that and going forward with it. It says, should I stop sessions if they will be getting a steroid shot in the area? This is for back pain in a human. Same thing. If they're going to get a steroid shot, quite often they're getting the shot to relieve the pain. If someone is getting an epidural type of shot or something like that, and you want to, again, same thing, let the shot be administered, wait 24 hours, then come back and begin your treatments. You could treat right up until the time of the injection if someone's going to do that, to help them be comfortable, to help them have good blood flow, so when they do get the injection into the area, everything's ready, everything's primed for what's going to be going on. So you can approach it from that for that type of situation. So, okay, let's see. We got a couple other questions here. I think we got a couple of calls 3 minutes ago. All right, let me come back here and go here and do the call from, let's see. Yes, all right, let me give the call here and answer a question. Sorry, it takes me a second to be my own assistant here.
Hello.
Hello, Pat Zemer here. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, no problem. How can I help you?
So I have posted some testimonials. So I have a very large spinal fusion, and I have been extremely blessed by finding MagnaWave PEMF. I was originally treated, and I texted it incorrectly. I was originally treated on a Julian Duo, and I bought a Pulse Pro. And I am wondering if the protocol, my sessions, the duration, the level that I set my Pulse Pro on might need to be different than it was when I received the original treatment under the Julian Duo.
It could be. Each machine is a bit different in terms of where the electrodes are, so on and so forth. So you could need to adjust your treatment a little bit to obtain the results that you're looking for. And what I would recommend is you have a discussion with Aaron or Teresa about that, what you're doing, and they can give you the best direction to go forward with that. They're very similar in how the machines are made, but again, they could vary from device to device. So you may want to change your treatment settings either up a little bit or down a little bit. Comfort is the key, and how you might approach that.
And I certainly just want to just confirm something that you have told us before, is that applying the coil from a different direction has definitely been something I've seen be important in my personal sessions.
Most assuredly, and it's a strange thing, because I mean, just imagine you put a coil on a knee or a butterfly on the knee, you're penetrating the whole knee, but for some reason, the tissue just responds better if you one day treat from the top of the knee, the next day you treat from the bottom, the next day you treat side to side, and you get the tissue is continually awakened to what's going on, and it receives it and seems to react in a better fashion.
Yes, I definitely just wanted to confirm to you, I have personally found that to be true.
Correct. Yep. Perfect.
All right. Thank you very much.
Hey, send an email to support@MagnaWave PMF, and we'll send you some gear.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Good question. Certainly, again, how things are worn, how things are used, device to device. You just want to correct it, make sure that you're comfortable in what you're delivering and you're getting the proper amount of energy that you're looking for. Okay. Let's see here. Here's a call. We'll get Carly here. Let's do Carly and see what she has. And we have some other questions. Ooh, we got a bunch of questions here on the...
Hello?
Yes, Pat Zemer here with MagnaWave.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. So I have a friend whose horse, they discovered had an infection too. She ended up putting a hole through her skull on the top, and you can see the hole on the top. Now, they're going to be doing surgery. How soon after surgery could we MagnaWave that?
You could MagnaWave that as soon as the bleeding is controlled. You don't want to MagnaWave if there's active bleeding going on. Not that you're going to cause more bleeding, but you just are going to help the blood flow, and the bleeding will be there. So you want things to be controlled. So they'll suture it up. If they close it up, give it a little time. So make sure that there is no bleeding going on, and then you're good to go. So that could be as soon as a couple, 2-3 hours, or that could be the next day.
Okay, and what would be the protocol to work on that? Just a few minutes a session, or?
Now you're talking about on top of the head?
Where the hole in the face, where the tooth has come through with the infection.
Okay, I would make sure you're comfortable, and you'll know if it's too high, the horse will not allow you to do it. And I would be on a moderate setting, probably for 6 to 8 minutes. I would, if it's possible, I'd do it every day for the first 5 or 6 days, and then maybe once a week or whatever, once you get ahead of what's going on. But comfort is the key, particularly when you're dealing around the eyes and the face and that type of thing. You want them to make sure that they're comfortable. So you don't have to go higher like you might do if you're doing the sacrum or a knee or an ankle, something like that.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Okay, anything else?
That is all. Thank you.
Okay, send an email to support@MagnaWave PMF, and we'll send you some gear.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Okay, we have 2 questions here. Let's do this one. And then we'll go to the questions that are typed out.
Hello.
Hello, Pat Zemer here with MagnaWave.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
It's early here. But you're calling Hawaii. Did you get my questions that I hope are somewhat legible? I haven't had my first cup of coffee yet.
Let me go back to the question and see it here. A client who feels they need a stronger machine like the Maya, but found Magnaceutical Magnasphere and believes 7 coils and driver will be the equivalent at a fraction of the cost. Is this something you have knowledge on? Okay. They need a stronger machine like the Maya, but have found the Magnaceutical Magnasphere and believes will be equivalent at a fraction of the cost. The quick answer to that is no. The Magnasphere is a fine device, but it is low power. So you're talking about being in that device for probably a half hour to an hour treatment each time, and probably every day for a period of time if available. Now, if they're going to a doctor and they're having to go, they're going to pay certainly for the number of minutes that they're using that device. And so that becomes an issue. But the Magnasphere is a low power, low frequency device. So you're talking about very little Gauss delivery. If they're wanting more strength and they're thinking about the Maya, any of the other units in between, the Soul, the Semi, any of those units will be more powerful, certainly more powerful than the Magnasphere, and they'll get a better result, quicker. They'll get a more quick result.
So the 7 coils and driver, which the client took the initiative to look that up, must have been his deciding factor, thinking that it would deliver the Gauss, because he was previously using a $30,000 MagnaWave machine by his veterinarian, and he tried the Semi 5, and his dog, which has degenerative disc disease, is peppier but not doing much better. And so the Magnasphere was with the 7 coils, the same guts is what he compared it to. He felt would give him a better return because he didn't want to spend $30,000 on a machine.
Well, and I don't know that he needs to spend that amount of money on what he's doing. Now, what he may need to do if he's using what he said it's the Semi machine.
The Semi 5.
The Semi 5 as compared to the Maya or the Max or even the Pulse Pro or Julian, it's not as strong, but it is much stronger than the Magnasphere. And so what he simply may need to do is, when he's using the Semi 5, is to simply do it a little longer. You don't have to do it an hour, but he might do it 20 minutes as opposed to 10 minutes that he would do it on the Max machine or one of the bigger devices. So that is the primary difference in the devices. The low power devices like the Magnasphere, which again, it does a fine job. It's just slower and you have to use it longer. And that's what they're equating it to. Gauss delivery. Now, I haven't looked at their, I need to do that. I'd have to read it if I went there right this minute. But the Gauss of those devices is much, much, much lower than some of the high voltage, high power devices like we have.
Now, with the treatment of extending it to 20 minutes, can they do it twice a day? Just
Absolutely.
Separate it by 8 hours?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I'd wait 6 hours, 4 to 6 hours in between treatments. The reason for that is you're putting energy in the body. The body's utilizing the energy. You're improving the blood flow. You're improving the blood oxygenation. Once that's done, you don't need to do any more for a period of time. But to come back later in the day and give it a boost, just to make sure that, just to help dial down the inflammation in the area that they're trying to work on, is certainly a way to approach that. And that's what I would do. I would do it 6 to 8 minutes twice a day. And again, it may take more treatments on their animal because they can't turn it as high as the Max machine or some of the others.
Well, with the degenerative disc disease, he's not going to see an improvement. The dog's aging, and so I guess he's thinking that
with the Maya, he was seeing the dog was able to get around better. And with the Semi-5, he's noticing that the dog is not getting around or feeling much better after using it. He's been using it now once a day for 20 minutes for 5 days.
Which attachment?
The big loop. Well, the large loop.
Does he have a butterfly?
He does.
Does he have a paddle?
No paddle.
Okay, I would use the butterfly instead of the large loop, because you'll get a higher Gauss delivery with the butterfly.
Okay.
Because it's a smaller coil, and that may provide the difference that he's looking for initially. May be the way to try it. And you're right, with a degenerative situation, he's not going to regenerate that. That's not. We don't do that. That unfortunately we don't create those types of situations. But the more powerful machine may, because what happens, it's kind of like I'm going to talk about in a horse when they have navicular. When you have actual bone degradation, which he's got in his situation, it's always going to be irritating the nerves and the muscles around it. So as soon as he stops, it's trying to come back. It's kind of like a spur. If you got a spur on your heel, you can make it feel better, but you're going to walk down the street, it's going to start hurting again. Or you put on the wrong shoes and go to the state fair and realize halfway through the day you've got on the wrong shoes and your neck and your back are killing you. Until you change shoes, it's going to bother you. And so he does have, and you're absolutely right, he does have that situation that he's dealing with, that it's not going to improve the situation. It's not going to keep it. It can keep it from degrading further. We see that a lot with arthritis in the horses, that we limit the amount of calcium buildup with good blood circulation. That's all we're doing. We're not healing anything. We're just improving the blood circulation, which keeps the accumulation of the calcium that causes the problem when it rubs the nerves, or when the nerves rub the area. And so that would be my thought there. Maybe go to the butterfly, and if the more powerful machine does it, I would have him look at the Pulse Pro or the Maya would be beneficial, or even
perhaps even the paddle.
Or even the paddle, because the paddle really increases the amount of Gauss delivered to the area.
Okay. Those are good options.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
And how about that second question?
Okay. Does a doctor and our practitioner have the opportunity to bill an insurance company for a session? At this point, some doctors, depending on the insurance coverages that they work with, chiropractors, for example, can bill for muscle stimulation. They can bill for frequency medicine. There's various things that they can bill for that they may feel that our devices or these types of devices fit those areas. That's a big challenge as some of these devices become FDA approved or FDA cleared, whatever words you want to use. Your next challenge is to get the insurance companies to accept it and to pay for it. And so in some cases, yes, that is possible. And it is changing, because there are devices that are FDA approved. Insurance companies do understand that, and they are allowing for that to be done. But it's a slow process that's going on. Now, in the horse world, in the veterinary and the equine world, they're much more where they have insured their racing or their performance horses, or even their performance dogs, or just their dog in general. And the insurance companies are more readily open to doing that, because they don't want to have to pay, and so they'll pay for some treatments to eliminate some other issues that they might have to pay for, or other medications.
So what I understood from another talk was that the MagnaWave was coded very similar to what a TENS machine would be. But what I didn't understand is whether or not it had to be the doctor who was submitting this to the insurance company or the practitioner.
At this point, in the United States, again, it varies from country to country, but in the United States, it has to be from a licensed provider. So that would be a doctor or a chiropractor or something like that. For individual practitioner to do that is not yet the case.
And in this case, it could actually vary from state to state.
Correct. There are some states that do allow things to be billed and so forth. That is correct.
Okay. You've been so helpful. Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome. Send an email to support@MagnaWave PMF, and we'll get you some gear.
All right. Thank you
Thank
again.
you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Good questions there today. And here's another one. Let's get a couple of questions off of the chat box here. For last week, I got all the chat box questions and missed some of the phone calls. Okay, let's see. Since got that. I did answer that one. Good morning from McKenna from Wisconsin. I have a client with a chronic sciatica issues. What kind of results have you experienced or anyone else in the MagnaWave family? Just started treating her once a week with the butterfly and LZR. Okay, and the challenge there is what's causing it, how long they've experienced it, and again, what they're doing after the treatments. For example, I've had some sciatica issues, and I've learned, and when I get into my car and I start driving, all of a sudden I get this lump, if you will, or feels like a knot in my buttocks and in my hip area, and I have to start moving around the seat. Well, and I treat myself when I get into that situation. But if I get in the car and I don't recline my seat a little bit, it's there. And no matter what I've done. So it's important that they follow all the different situations to make themselves more comfortable. They can reduce the inflammation very quickly. But if they then go get into a car, or they carry themselves in a certain fashion as they walk, or they've got, particular, any number of things can cause some of these situations. For example, sitting on a billfold. Years ago, I stopped putting my billfold in my back pocket. I carry my billfold in my front pocket. So when I'm sitting, I'm not sitting on anything that's making me unbalanced in the car or in the house or whatever I'm doing. Just that can make a difference on your posture, which over time can influence what's doing. You can come in and treat it today and it's better, but you put that billfold back in that pocket and you sit down this afternoon, you're going to have it start coming back immediately, or you're not going to get rid of it completely. And so those are the situations to deal with. We've had very good success. In fact, my friend Alex in California was a horse trainer, and now he's the national sales manager for Lubricant. But at any rate, he called me. He told me, "Man, you got to see this machine." When we first started getting involved with this machine, and then 2 weeks later, he called me back and said, "Did you call these people?" And I said, "No, I'm busy treating some horses here in Ocala, so on and so forth." And he said, "You need to call this." But this young lady came by and brought this machine and treated my sciatica, and it was gone. It was just amazing in one treatment. Now, how long that lasted, that's the key. Once a week with the LZR as you're doing, and a treatment initially may not be enough. You may need to treat that person 3 or 4 or 5 times in a row if possible, to get it, what I say, to get ahead of the situation that you're dealing with. And then you can drop back to once a week or once every other week to keep things in check and keep things in a good situation. So that would be the suggestion there. To go after it, you can get a result. Are you going to get it if it's something that they've been dealing with for a good period of time? Might be difficult. You want multiple treatments to do that. And I hate to even talk like that, because I want everybody to be treated once and they're happy and they come back when they have another issue. But unfortunately, sometimes it takes multiple treatments to get ahead of a situation. I personally have a situation in my mid back now. I attribute it totally to stress that I get when I get some stress thoughts going through my head or whatever it is. And I can treat it once, and I treat mid back up to, and it's right here in the clavicle, and where I have it at the top of the shoulder is where I get the pain. But I've realized that it's mid back to where it's coming from. So I'll treat mid back up to the top of my shoulder. I'm using the Spiro Go to treat it. So I want to do that because it's one of our newer machines, and it's a little lower power. It's more like the Semi, and to make sure that it's helping me. And it is, but I have to do it more often because I want to try to stay ahead of it. And what I do is I'll treat myself 2 or 3 days, and I get to feeling real good, and then I'll go out and work in the yard, or I'll go ride my bike or do something, and all of a sudden it's back, and I should have kept treating. But I think everything's fine, so I don't treat it, and then all of a sudden, bingo, it comes back, and then I got to treat it some more. Imagine that. But anyway, so that's how you want to approach that. let's see, sciatica. All right. Let's see, I have a soul and my client list is going fast. At what point should I consider getting a bigger machine, Julian Duo? Well, Sierra, there are people that have their business and they stay with the soul or the semi devices and they're very happy with that. When you're in a situation that you want to be able to do more in a day, the stronger devices are shorter treatment periods. You can turn them a little higher to get a more direct result as you're approaching going through your day. And I would look at a very simple equation. When I started, I bought my first machine and I paid for it in 6 months of doing treatments. So when you know that your business is growing, that your machine's almost paid for, or however you're doing it, and that you can see what your volume is, and then talk about we have a profit calculator on the website where you can look at how many treatments it's going to be, because certainly when you go to a bigger machine, you're going to pay a little more, and so your payout time is a little different. But I would base it on the number of clients you have, how your revenue is going, and what basis are you treating. For example, if all of a sudden your client list is growing to where you're doing more performance horses, or you're doing athletic type of clients that they need the increased power and they want the improved speed of delivery, then you might think at that point to be able to step up your game and have a machine that'll be more versatile for what you want to do. If you're in the equine world and you find yourself working with a lot of knee and foot problems, you're going to probably want, for versatility, a stronger machine. Whereas if you're treating the back of the horse or the shoulders of the horse, you're never going to turn it all the way up. That you might if you're treating a foot or an ankle or that type of situation. So just kind of, and our product specialists can help you with that. I'm happy to help you with that as well, to have that conversation. And so if you get to a point that you've got more customers than you can service, then it's time to have a second helper or a second device that you can implement and bring into your practice. I hope that helps. And if you have further questions, let me know. Okay. How important is it to talk about Gauss to customers? Many of mine get lost just talking about cell permeability, getting to the science and so forth. The important thing is you want people to understand that you're delivering what I quite often refer to as massive amounts of energy to the area. You're not putting a number on it. If you put a number on it, all of a sudden is it 5,000 or 6,000 or 9,000? What are you giving? Is it 500? And what they're looking for is a result. And so when you can talk about energy delivery, you're not putting it on it. It's a massive amount of energy. You're going to feel it as it approaches the area, depending on the device, but you're going to feel it as it approaches the area, and over a period of time, you're going to feel better. And so you don't need to create rocket science in order to do this, because it is very difficult. And that's one of the reasons that I'm working with the Soul Pro, not the Soul Pro, the Spiro Go, as I'm experimenting with it and using it, is to just know how long I use it. And I do treat myself longer with that than I would with a Julian or a Pulse Pro or the Maya or the Max. But it's comfortable, it's easy, it's smaller, so I can put it here in my office at home and rest in the chair and treat my back like I do in 15 or 20 minutes, and bingo, I'm a pretty happy camper. And it amazes me when I do that, when it's a weaker machine or a little lower power machine in our line, and I can still do it, and an hour later I'm out to dinner or I'm doing something and I feel good. And so I just talk about energy. It's a amount of energy that you're going to feel. That's one of the secrets. People need to feel it sometimes more than they need to understand the numbers that are being delivered, or even hear it. Just the fact that you can hear it and you can feel it as it works on your, for example, the Spiro Go, you can feel it. When I put it on my back, I feel it, but I don't feel it all the way through like I do when I'm using the Maya or the Pulse Pro or one of the more powerful machines, but I feel it on the area. And that's the important thing that people need to try to wrap their head around. Don't go too deep, because they're going to all of a sudden going to be trying to, so I talk energy. A massive amount of energy that's going to help your body have better blood flow, better oxygenation, and help things feel better. Bingo. You start putting numbers on it. And that's one of the things, just to be really clear, that the AOPP, the Association of PMF Professionals, is working to do, is to understand and to have a clearinghouse, if you will, for the strength of machines, the power that's being generated, because it's all over the wall. And because what originally happened when these machines were first developed back in the late 1980s and the 1990s in the US from the machines that were brought over from Greece, is most of the numbers were achieved with mathematical equations. In other words, if I have this capacitor, these diodes, this type of transformer, this much copper coil in my tube, I'm going to get 2,000 Gauss. Or I'm on 2 Tesla. But when they got to the point that we could really measure these machines, because they're very difficult to measure, because I've said in the past, the signal starts and stops, and a magnetometer is designed to read a signal that is continuous. So when you have a start and stop signal, a regular magnetometer does not measure it accurately. So once we were able to start measuring the high-powered machines more accurately, we were learning that the Gauss was different than what the mathematical equation gave us. A lot of that's because, as I mentioned earlier today, the size and the type of attachment that you're using with these devices. So I hope that helps. Talk about energy if someone wants to talk Gauss, and something I used to do all the time, and it's something that you can do. Find either a compatriot in your area that you can talk to. Get your product specialist that you dealt with with the machine, Elaine or myself or somebody. Arrange a call. This is amazing. I used to do this all the time. I call it money phone, and there's a lot of ways to use your phone to help you make money. But I would tell my practitioners, if you're in a group of people and they start questioning what you're doing, call me and put it on the speaker. And they may not know me or anything, but the person on the other end of that line is always considered an expert. And I'm not trying to cheapen it, but I'm just saying, if someone else can say it, if you say it, or I would say it when I would go out into the field, well, it does this, and I'm just trying to sell something. I'm trying to get some business. But when you put somebody else on and they start speaking logically and they start answering the questions, and then they can take a question or two from those 3 or 4 people that are standing around and answer that question, bingo. It's magic in how you can tie the family together, if you will, and get your questions answered in those types of environment. And it was just amazing. And I've done that over the years. Now what I do today is a little different, but it still would help out in that situation. If someone needs it, let me know and we can organize it and do something like that. But it's just amazing how people respond when somebody else is answering the question for them, and they're able to interact. So anyway, hope that helps. And let's see here. Let's see if we got another one. Same question here. How many joules is the LZR putting out? I don't know. I don't recall off the top of my head. It's in the book. Perhaps Aaron can get to that answer. The joule output of the LZR, the red light therapy, and the wattage is the thing that's pretty important with that. That's why the LZR, being red light therapy, it's not a laser. It is red light, and it is putting the heat. It's very valuable with the heat that it produces and the penetration that we get from the 1200 watts that particular device emits. And there's another thing to talk about there in terms, because people will go, it's kind of like, and it's kind of like studies. People have said, okay, I want to run my MagnaWave machine at this hertz or this frequency, because there was a study done back in '79 that they had 5 hertz, or they used this particular frequency, and they got good results. So I want to replicate that. Well, with different devices, that's very difficult to do. But what we have learned over the years is that the particular high level of Gauss or the particular frequency. The frequency in our devices is not like a radio frequency. The frequency in our devices is how often it fires. So if it fires 5 times a second, you could call that a frequency of 5, or whatever. Or once a second, you could call that a frequency of 1, because that's when it is firing. But somebody else wants to say, well, I put it on a frequency of 78. Well, in our devices, you could do that. You can turn it way down, and it's firing, if you could count it, 78 times in a second or whatever, and bingo, you've got that type of frequency. But in some cases, it's so low that you're getting what you're looking for. So, and another explanation to that, Dr. Dennis, when he did the NASA study, used 10 hertz. And so people have said, well, I have to get to 10 hertz to get the real healing effect of what's going on. No, that was an arbitrary number. And he will tell you that. He's told us that. He's told us that at MagnaCon. It was a number that he picked. He certainly feels that he could have chosen 20 hertz or 5 hertz or whatever. It was the signal that was being produced, how the signal was starting and stopping, how all of that was cumulative to provide the services that he was looking for, or the documentation that he was looking for. So because something was done 15 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever at a particular setting or a particular thing does not necessarily mean that that's the only setting or the only number or the only power that will be beneficial in those situations. And we've had that with our devices being high power devices compared to the low power devices. The low power devices, they work just fine. Again, some of them are a little slower, and you got to do them more often, but the high power devices are producing this very similar type of result in the body. They're just doing it with a higher power with a quicker result. You go put out a fire, it's tough to put out a fire with a garden hose, whereas you can put it out with a fire hose much better. And it's because it's more powerful. And what do you want? You want the fire out. And if you got all day and you don't care, you put the garden hose on it and let it go, but you'll eventually get it out or it will burn out. But there you go. And so that's the way to have a look at those type situations. Okay, let's see. Hope that helps. Crazy question. You say not to use on someone with active bleeding. During a woman's cycle, should you not treat? That's a great question. And what I'm really talking about is a situation, and again, I'm not a doctor, so I can't really make this determination. But in a cycle, you're talking a lot of times there's cramping, there's discomfort, there's endometriosis in some people, and inflammation, and you want to aid that during the process. You're not going to necessarily, I don't think, bleed more during a cycle when it's a natural thing. So that is a good question, and there is some confusion, and I do know that people have used it during their cycle to be more comfortable, to look at it this way. If you're going to pass an amount of blood and maybe you do it a little quicker, you might be comfortable a little quicker. Just thinking, and perhaps that's a question that we ask Dr. Amanda, and she can give us some input on. But in those type situations, I know. But when we're talking surgically, where you've got something repaired and you've got an injury that they want to, it's an open injury and they really can't do much but bandage it. So you want to just wait until it's bandaged and it's controllable. So we just don't have, bleeding for 3 or 4 days that we can allow to stop. Great question, though. Thank you for asking. I've never had anyone ask. Jim Sappington. Hi, Jim. How are you? Thanks for being with us. Should I stop sessions if they are getting did I ask that already? I think I did. A steroid shot. Here's Carly says, I personally use my machine for cramps. That's good. Nola asks, should have done that for my husband prior to his second vaccine. And that's another thing that people have been talking about vaccines and treating if they're going to have a sore arm or whatever in that type situation, to treat the area after the inoculation or before. As I've talked about, you can treat people who are getting epidural type of shots or particular shots for pain in their back. You can treat right up until the time of the shot, and that just gives them more comfort. They may get a better distribution, so on and so forth. So here we go. A lot of questions, a lot of answers on the on the different devices. Liliani asks, what are the key selling points against our competitors, such as equine, when customers are comparing machines? Well, a couple of things. You want to know, and I'm just going to talk about what we offer from the standpoint of our app. We do have an app that's there that you can go down and talk about the different equine indications when you're treating a horse or a client, and you want to know what's the best way to do. As I've pointed out, it's not in my nature to throw my competitors under the bus. And so what I talk about is we're all doing the same thing. You want to work with somebody that you can deal with. You want to work with somebody that appears to believe in what they're doing. I've said this a million times. When you're talking to a person and you're talking to a client and they want to know how you're going to treat their animal and what's going on, if they detect for a second that you're not, number one, sold on what you're doing, you don't 100% believe it, or you're not 100% educated there, they can tell that. And so people want to know confidence. And so when you're talking to your clients, be confident, be truthful in what's going on. If they ask you a question you can't answer, come to us and get the answer. As I said, you can almost call right from the time that the question is asked, and get an answer from somebody in our system. Those are the things that I've learned that customers want. They want good customer service. They want a fair price. They want these types of things. But number one is they really want to know and see that you believe in what is going on. And so that's always very important in those types of situations. Now, you'll have people that'll tell you, or they'll tell the competition will say, well, my machine does this or my machine does that. They all are basically doing the same thing that people are dealing with. So that would be my number one thing, is to have a good elevator speech, understand what you're doing, believe in what you're doing, and they will see that. Utilize the resources that we have available for you. I mean, it's very important. It's important to how you present yourself. I'm not saying that people don't present themselves but wear the gear. Be proud of who you're working with, so that people see that you're part of a bigger family. I mean, when I first started dragging this machine around, you may have heard me tell this story before. First, I was the crazy guy dragging this machine around that nobody knew what it did, but he just said it does this. Then, it became kind of voodoo. Well, he's treating it and it's working, but I don't know what it is. Then it became, well, it's working, but it's got to be illegal. So you gotta be careful about that. Then it became, oh, this really works and my doc agrees with it, or this really works and my horse performs better. I feel better. My dog is getting around better. So those kind of things, and you gotta get through that. So being honest, and not saying that people aren't honest, but just being honest, being forthright is what people want to hear. And if somebody presents information, simply ask the question, do you have documentation of that? People will say, well, it does this or it does that. There are a couple of companies out there today that, and I've talked about them in the past, that have low power units, and they're more of a network type of situation. They scare me to death because there's a lot of folks out there making claims that they shouldn't be making. And all it does is potentially get everybody in trouble. We're a wellness type of apparatus. We promote a sense of well-being. We help people feel better and to hopefully heal better, and in that type situation. So if someone's making claims, ask for documentation. If someone says they've got patents or something, ask for the patent. If they say they're an FDA cleared device, of which there aren't very many at this stage in time. We do have a device that was just FDA registered 2 weeks ago, and we're going down that road with all these devices, and all the devices are safety tested. You'd be amazed the number of people out there that are making devices that are not safety testing them, not making any effort to safety test them. And what does that mean? Well, what that means is if a doctor has a device, or somebody has a device in their home, and God forbid there's a fire, and they say, well, it came from this plug over here, this device, that could, if it's not safety tested, to be clear to use electrically, a company could say, well, we're not going to pay the insurance. So it's very important as we gain growth. I mean, it's really changed. And I've said this before. When I started, there were 2 or 3 machines east of the Mississippi River. And today there's thousands. I mean, there's thousands in the United States. There's thousands around the world. Things change. People start noticing what people are saying. People start noticing that this is really a mainline type of thing. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring PEMF back to more of a mainline medicine in the United States, like it is in other countries. It is accepted and it is used, and in many different facets. And so I get a little long-winded and I don't want to get off base here, but that's the thing to remember and the thing to consider as you approach those type situations. Okay. I have a human client I see regularly, and he also asks for some same treatment, same attachments, which is fine by me, but would it be advantageous to change it up? If so, why can I explain the benefits to the client? Well, it's not as important to switch attachments. If he wants the same attachment, fine. But today, just dial the intensity. You know, if you're using a machine and you're putting it on 10 every time, and he's using the large loop wherever it's being used, run it at 9 one time. Run it at 7 one time. Run it at 10. Run it at 7, and then turn it up to 10 for the last 5 minutes of the treatment or the last 10 minutes of the treatment. Again, the basis, the tissue responds differently, responds more favorably when it's approached in different intensities for in different periods of time. So you want to change the intensity, change the movement, and approach it from different directions, and you're good. What's that mean? If you're treating a horse's knee, treat on one side of the knee today, treat around the knee tomorrow, treat up and down the knee or the leg the next day or the next treatment, and you're always got the tissue surprised. You're always got the tissue saying, oh, there's something going on here. I need to pay attention to this. I'll feel better. Let's clear out this information. And we call that muscle memory. We call it cellular memory. I can't tell you how many times I've worked on a horse, and we do the horse, and all of a sudden the horse goes down the shed row, trots down, it doesn't look any different, gets down to the end of the shed row, or the end outside where they're trotting it, and all of a sudden the horse realizes it feels better, turns around, trots back beautifully, because the pain's not there, and because it's different. But yet they're so accustomed that when they start to go, it's going to be a problem, that they act as though it's a problem. And once they realize that it's not a problem, you'll watch their gait change. You'll watch them change leads more handsomely or whatever, more handily, and away you go in those type situations. Okay. Do you normally ask clients what medications they take in case you need to let them know it might make them better absorbed and they might need to take to their doctor, or do you not seem like I'm giving medical advice? It does not hurt to ask what medications people are taking. What you do want to know is you want to give them the opportunity to talk with their vet about what they're doing, and to ask if they should do the medication prior or medication after, or those types of things. Let the doctor make those types of situations. Kind of do what I was talking earlier. If you know someone is taking a medication, make sure they take their medications in the morning if you're going to treat them in the afternoon. And so everything has gotten a chance to be absorbed, to be metabolized in the body, and it's there. There was a question, people used to ask the questions, well, if that's happening and they're going to test my horse after an event and I've given it an injection, if I'm treating it, am I increasing the amount of the injection in the bloodstream? They don't inject more than they can be allowed to inject if they're doing it properly. So what they put in there, the fact that we're helping the animal feel better after the injection, you're not changing the amount of the injection that is recorded or is in the thing. It never was a question. All of a sudden one day, phone rings, well, I'm going to be tested. What should I worry about? And we learned nothing, because you didn't do anything wrong. So your blood system does not say, oh, because this happened, there's more of this or more of that. It's there, and it's going to be utilized as it's directed. So that's typically not a situation. Let's see here. Where'd it go? Do that often with body work on a horse, very tight. Okay, I don't get that question. I lost a question. I don't know where it went. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the question that I just saw and I can't seem to get it. I'll find it here in a second. Let me go to messages and see what we got. Treatment. Here we go. Let's give a audio and get a question. Oh my goodness, this will probably be the last one. We're almost out of time. If it rings. Hello. Hello. Well, I thought we had them, but they're not there. This weekend, I was MagnaWave Horses and People. There was a lady selling beamer machines. I walked over to see what it was all about as a competitor. I asked questions like, how far does the current go into the horse? She had no idea. She had been selling them for 3 years. I had to ask about pulling abscesses in horses' feet. She said no. Just wanted to say, thank you, MagnaWave. Well, that's very nice that you said that. And different devices, and the beamer being one of them, is a low power device, works very well, can provide some comfort to the client. But in terms of dealing with an abscess and how deep it penetrates, those devices so often work on microcirculation, and they'll talk about that. They'll talk about microcirculation in the body, and we're talking about systemic circulation, because they're doing at the capillary level is where they're getting in with a very shallow penetration, which if you keep doing it is going to aid the blood flow and help the thing, but it's microcirculation. We're talking about penetrating all the way through the hand, if that's what you're doing, or the elbow, or the knee, or the foot of the horse, whatever it is, and helping the circulation much deeper, much more rapidly. So those are the differences that are there, and so that you have to deal with. Great questions today. I appreciate it very much. We are out of time. We look forward. I'll come back next week and we'll have some more questions for you and to answer your questions that you may have. So again, thank you for being here. Wave on to better health. We love y'all. Have a great day. Bye-bye.